Of my talk, the goal of, if we're talking about what the goal of the Christian walk is, of knowing Jesus, and it's not about just having community, just going to church in small groups and having just church friends, and instead we look at Jesus' great commission, to actually love others, to share his love with others and receive that love for ourselves. Then we have to actually think, okay, Jesus loves the world, and if he's my friend who, just like my friend, soccer and puzzles and good looking, I'm going to keep using that because I know you guys get it, just like that friend, then I'm going to start to care more. As I love Jesus more, I'm going to care about the things that Jesus cares about. Does that make sense? So just like any friend, the more you love that friend, the more you want to know what they care about. And when we want to strive to care about the things, this world that Jesus cares about, we have to understand his people. And this helps us walk through exactly how is our faith, how is Jesus relevant to the world that we live in, to people. How do we talk about Jesus in a way that makes him relevant to people who have not grown up in the church? In language other than Christianese, which is not a blend between Chinese and Christian, but moreover just, words, heavy words like, substitution, atonement, and, crucifixion and all that stuff, to actually explain what is Jesus doing in an understandable way. So I just want to apply this diagram. We'll come back to this in just a second. But I know my talk's entitled, How to Grow Intellectually in Your Faith. But I hope that what you're getting is not growing intellectually in your faith is not something like a Q&A type thing where there's questions that you have to answer, but it's actually a whole new way of thinking. Okay, so on campus, that's not me, but might look like me. On campus, we have these interactive displays that we've put where people walk past, and we invite people to come and take surveys with little dots. There's those questions. You see those dots? Yes? Good. So we ask them to take dots and answer these questions. And the questions are meant to get them to think and then hopefully have a conversation with us about what they think, maybe what story they live in, and other topics like that. So I'm going to put up some of these questions, and I want you, for the most part, I'll read the question. I want you guys to seriously think about what you would put as your answer, all right? So all eyes up here. What most disturbs you? Okay, so hopefully you got an answer for that. What you would actually, if this was right in front of you, what would you put as, if you had a dot and you could put it on any one of these panels, which one most disturbs you? Okay, so this next one is, which best explains this? So this is war-related deaths. So people who died in wars, starting from the 16th century to the 20th century. You can see those numbers. And so the question is asking, what do you think best explains these numbers increasing? Is it organized religion, organized atheism, or nation building? Just people building nations, going to war with each other. Okay. So this is a panel called Good and Evil. And so this is on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being low, like you don't really agree with it, 5 means you agree with it a lot. So the first quote, just look at the yellow panel for now. There is no good and evil, only power, and those too weak to seek it. This is from Professor Quirrell in Harry Potter. So, this just...
Is that from Voldemort speaking as Professor Quirrell, or is that from Professor Quirrell when he was actually Professor Quirrell?
It's Professor Quirrell himself. Okay, so you guys have your numbers in your mind where you would identify with that. So this is interesting because it's asking people where they identify with. Do you think there is a such thing as good and evil? Do you think those concepts exist, or they're just kind of things that it just kind of swirls around? Okay, so this is similar to the last slide, talking about our values just constructs. So this means our values, meaning like good and evil, like those words that I'm saying, are those just constructs like made up in your mind? Like when I say the words good and evil, is there something that's actually good and evil out there, or is it something just made up in your mind? Like we made it up because we need something to define good and evil as. And so the first quote comes from Humanist Manifesto. The nature of the universe depicted by science makes unacceptable any supernatural guarantees of human values. This is translation. The universe is, as explained by science, it doesn't leave any room for these concepts of good and evil. It just doesn't really exist. So this is one of the panels on there as well. This is a fact from the United Nations Development Program just a few years ago. The cost of eradicating world poverty is estimated at only 1% of global income. So you take all of the world's income, just 1% of it would get rid of all baseline poverty in the world. Okay, so this, when you look at these things, these slides before, I hope it gets you thinking about the stuff that actually happens on a day-to-day basis in our world. And as Christians, or as people in general, we can't simply look at them and say they don't exist. My world is here and that happens out there. So the question here is, what is the best way of dealing with humanity's evil, with the evil in the world? So there's get rid of genes genetically, improve education, strengthen families, develop better laws, or none at all, dismantle privilege, revisit faith and belief. We can't. Survival of the fittest. So I want you guys to turn to those same groups and just share which you picked and why. And feel free to take a few moments of thinking about this before you share. Oh, all right, let's bring it back. Okay, so hopefully, does anyone want to share? Did any groups agree on any answers, or you want to share what you had?
Yeah, improve education.
Okay, who had that? Improve education? Okay. Anyone who had strengthen families? Who had develop better laws? Better laws to society. Or non-evil is a construct? We can't? Revisit faith and belief? Okay, so hold on this for a second, we'll come back to it, I promise. This next one I want you to just silently think about. If you find evil in yourself, what do you do? For you, those of you in the back, just exercise more willpower, deny it, forget about it, blame it on someone else, try to make up for it by doing good deeds, cleanse myself through religious rituals, apologize to everyone I hurt, wait for the next life, I cannot change myself, and nothing, evil is an illusion. Okay. So I'm going to go on to the next one. Here's kind of the contrast between stories, the happy ending story and the not so happy ending story, the circular story that we looked at earlier. And so here, I want you guys to just take a moment and think, you don't have to share, but just think without, forget about everything you've maybe grown up being used to hearing in church or youth group, and just for a second think about, in your belief system right now, as it stands, when you look at the world, do you think evil in the world will actually be defeated? Yes or no at the very end of time or wherever? Okay, so this next slide goes more into, can God change humanity? So look at the bottom there first. There's two verses, one from Jeremiah and one from Ezekiel. I will put my law within them, and on their hearts I will write it. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And the second one says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. And so here's another 1 through 5 scale, and in terms of what you guys think, how is God actually involved in humanity? Can he actually change humanity if that's the problem? And this last one, how does God help? So I'll read this to you because the colors are kind of fuzzy. So no, God doesn't care. I get help elsewhere. Yes, God just takes my side against others. Yes, he does help by giving us laws to live up to and rewarding us or punishing us based on our obedience. Yes, by helping us to get used to the world as it is. Or green, yes, by offering to heal the evil inside of us. So various answers. But doesn't care, takes my side against others, gives us laws to live up to, or helps us get used to the world as is, and offering to heal the evil inside of us. So, I want to actually revisit this diagram again real quick. So, hopefully this kind of makes sense now, this thought process. I know it kind of looked big before, but when you think about what you actually believe as a person, independent of your parents, independent of your friends, just you, what do you actually believe will actually happen in the world? Do we live in a story where there's no happy ending, where stuff happens and maybe it leads to reincarnation or escape to enlightenment, or things just kind of swirl around? Or is there a happy ending, and will there actually be a fix to that? And so the reason why here, because these are the stories that largely people live in, whether they know it or not. And these are a lot of the things that even Christians, or people who've grown up going to church, can say, I live in a no happy ending story. But the thing here to show is that Christianity, when you talk about it in a relevant way to the world, it's actually a happy ending story. There's the hope here in the Old Testament and various other verses that God would send a Messiah to heal his people, to actually redeem his people and give them a new heart, in Ezekiel down there. So there's actually this hope in the Old Testament that throughout all the ups and downs of Israel's history, God will actually one day be sending this Messiah and to redeem his people, to vindicate them from their enemies. And when Jesus actually came, as you guys know, they crucified him. But in the Christian tradition, Jesus is actually God's solution to the evil within us. And he's actually green. Yes, he's actually offering to heal the evil within us. And how he does that is by offering a fix. If the problem to humanity is internal, then the fix is a new human nature. Remember that cold analogy? Yes? And the cold analogy, when you have a cold and there's a not cold, that's easy, like a deadly disease inside of you, there's the cure has to come from inside. So, the reason why I bring this up and show you guys these diagrams is that when you look at this diagram is essentially showing you how you can talk about Jesus, or how you can think about faith in a way that's relevant to the world. When we look at these problems, these real problems in the world, these things that happen on a day-to-day basis, and we think about, well, how is Jesus relevant to this? For me, a lot of the answer from there was blank, and he really wasn't. But if that's the case, I think there's a problem, and we need to readdress that. So this is showing how when we strive to care about the world as God does, we need to understand the world that we live in, these different stories that we live in, and actually understand and be able to articulate in an understandable way what Jesus is doing. the story of Jesus in the Christian tradition, of him being God's solution to the problem of evil in the world, and that one day there will be a happy ending where God will combine heaven and earth once again and recreate the new creation and make all things new. So I want to bring it back to this diagram in the beginning and draw it all together. But Jesus' mission of evangelism, local and global, to break it down once again, is to call others to be transformed by Jesus as we ourselves are being transformed by him. And your faith, your desires, your character, and your skills will grow all at the same time as you pursue his kingdom. These things, your faith and your foundations, as you choose to commit to Jesus more, he will shape your desires, like that friend that you spend a lot of time with. He will shape, in turn, your character, because if you want to care about the world like he does, he will start to change you into someone that's more like him, to make those decisions. And when you strive to love the people around you, you won't have any choice but to be stretched in your skills, your abilities to listen to your friends through their pain, your ability to answer tough questions and have conversations about Jesus that makes him relevant to this world. And so I just want to leave you guys with these two questions. What areas of your life can you ask Jesus to heal and transform now? Because if we're looking at this, what the Christian walk is all about, then we have to ask ourselves, in what areas of your life can you actually say, I want you to heal and transform? Which desires do you want Jesus to renew? Which character traits in yourself do you want Jesus to refine for the sake of his kingdom? And the second question, how can you participate in Jesus' mission where you are now? Where are the people in your life that you can love on a day-to-day basis? It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be revolutionary, but it does have to be radical in small ways. Maybe, you might see that kid that sits next to you in class and start treating them with some dignity and kindness. Or maybe you're like me and you hate studying in groups because they bring you down. But, just kidding. But maybe instead you choose to go out to that group study session because it gives you a chance to form relationships with those people in your lives. Our God is a relational God, and he works through our relationships. So as we choose to commit ourselves to his mission of loving other people, calling others to him, as we ourselves are being changed by him, we'll find that we'll grow in these qualities at the same time. So we'll have some time for Q&A now, but before I do that, I just want to pass out a quick reading list, just to tie up loose ends, because I know, you can pass this way. So I know this talk was called How to Grow Intellectually in Your Faith, but I didn't structure it like if you came with questions about how does Christianity relate to science, or how does Christianity and history relate, or how do I answer tough questions about God or Jesus, these are some resources that you can look at later, or I'd love to talk with you after. But this, I hope, gives you a framework of thinking about if we choose to put Jesus' mission first, we will grow in our own faith and our own character and skills, and learn to articulate our faith in a relevant way. So thanks for listening.